Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Laura Rogers. This is SharePoint Power Hour. This is my show I do Wednesdays at 11 Central, all about SharePoint, Office 365, things you can do out of the box. This is not usually super technical, not, nothing with programming, but just a lot of great topics for mostly regular business users and using SharePoint and using Office 365, SharePoint Online and Office 365. So most of the stuff lately has been SharePoint Online, but they did make a few announcements at Ignite about SharePoint on premises. So that brings us into today's topic. Today's topic is my Microsoft Ignite recap. I had a lot of fun. I wrote a blog post about this, but I got to be Microsoft deemed me a community reporter. So I got to do that all last week. It was an amazing experience. I had never done that before, that type of thing before. It was yeah. So if you all were watching the live Ignite's live stream, that was a whole production crew and directors, and we had they had a stage all over the place to do this roving reporting. And had the little headset in, and okay, live to you, and I just kind of had to make something up as I went along. And then throughout the week we did all these other little roving reporter segments, and some of them are pre-recorded, and some of them yeah, thanks. So some of them were that day, and some of them were recorded the days before and things like that. So they kept us busy. But one of the people that were in the crew, like the director, I'm not sure what his title was, but he complimented me and said I was doing a really good job, and I was like, oh hey, I'm doing something right. I didn't know, I've never done this before. And then I proceeded to do a whole segment where I looked at the wrong camera the whole time. So it was fun. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot about live shows and live streaming and things like that. But there were a ton of just amazing announcements, really exciting announcements that happened during all week. Especially, of course, my focus has always been SharePoint, especially around SharePoint. I have this blog post that I wrote. I'll post that in the general channel just so y'all can refer to that anytime. But the blog post has just sort of this list of links that are, in my mind, kind of summarize most of the really big announcements just from my point of view. Of course, if you're a SQL person or Windows person, you will have different things that were exciting to you. So as we go through Power Hour today, I'm going to go through and talk about a lot of these. Now, most of the things that they announced are not in the product yet. So even the Office 365, the SharePoint things, they said it'll be a couple of weeks. So there isn't really anything, there aren't any of these brand new things that I can actually demo for the most part today. But we're going to go over a lot of because there's so many just little things you might have missed it, like the information panel is coming back in Office. That's kind of a small thing that just kind of appeared somewhere that I saw that someone announced in one of their sessions, but that's a big deal, right? So you guys, as I go through these, you let me know what you think, and you let me know if you if you were there or if you watched these sessions, because a lot of these sessions I didn't physically make it to. I wasn't there. And so those of you who watched live streaming from your homes, you actually might have more information than I do from what you saw in the sessions, since I didn't make it to a lot of sessions. But I got as many tidbits as I could. So, and yeah, thanks for the compliments. Yeah, that was really fun. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and talk through some of these. So I usually do demos and things like that in Power Hour, but I thought this was worthy of, even though we can't demo it, it's pretty exciting stuff to talk about. All right, so here is my screen share. This is the blog post that I just posted. It's called my MS Ignite Wrap Up. There's me doing my roving reporting, and you could see I'm back here on the screen behind myself. That was a little odd because I could hear an echo as I talked. And then just real quick FYI, there's a whole playlist that I created that has just my little segments from the week. All right. SharePoint Hub Sites. This was a really huge announcement. So if you didn't hear about this concept, here's what a hub site is going to be. It is going to be like a sort of like a parent site, like for example, a department. So a hub site can be like this concept of a department, this main sort of root level, but what they're doing is they're encouraging everyone to create all of your SharePoint sites as site collections. So we're moving to a flat structure. We're really highly discouraging subsites, and they're encouraging this flat structure. And with the flat structure, I just put it over in the general channel, in the general channel in Slack. What you can do is you can have a hub site which isn't physically a parent and isn't physically connected in any way to like the location of any other sites, but what you do is just define what the child sites need to be. So, and I know this has happened in a lot of organizations where you've had just like various site collections spring up here and there, like the marketing department might have created a marketing department site for some particular project or team, and the marketing department might have like 5 other sites that are, site collections that just got created over time for different purposes. So what you could do is you could just define that the marketing hub site is the hub site that, each of these sites is connected to or related to. And you can see in this little graphic that what they're doing, and you can do the same thing with team sites and do the same thing with communication sites. They can all have, connect up to this hub. And so the hub is going to be rolling up content from its children. So this is a great new way, easier way of building an intranet based on just all this ad hoc type of SharePoint collaboration we've seen over the years, and just SharePoint sprawl that we've seen over the years, and just making the most of that and making it so that you can just, if that happened to your organization, you can just go with it. You can just embrace it and just define all these sites as rolling up to a certain hub, and then you don't have to worry about re-architecting, moving sites and things like that. So if you're going to be re-architecting anything, you may be taking things that were subsites and moving them up to be site collections. But again, going forward, creating new sites, whenever you create a new communication site, it is a site collection. Whenever you create any new sites from just going to the SharePoint home and clicking to create a new site, it always creates a site collection. So that is just the general sort of out-of-the-box standard for that. So also, with your hub site, it carries the branding down to pushes the branding down to the children. Branding, yeah. So what happens is you define, you say like we want HR to always be red, and you define that in the hub site, and then when you say like go to a different site and say it's going to roll up to this hub site now, it immediately inherits all the branding that you're pushing to it down from the hub site. So that's another purpose of the hub sites, is having that branding pushed down. Let's see, so I've got a question. Charles says, what about sharing content between hubs? Well, a hub doesn't have content. A hub is just a roll-up. So right now, any site can only have one hub, but I believe that that's just a start. So we could probably look forward to maybe in the future being able to have, maybe have a site collection that could be defined somehow as being in multiple hubs, but I'm not sure how that would work with the way the branding gets pushed down. So maybe that's why that doesn't exist yet. So I guess we'll kind of see how that evolves. That'll be really interesting. So let me kind of go through this real quick. Hub sites, blah, 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 blah. Navigation, that's another thing. So I mentioned the branding, but the navigation is also getting pushed down from the top, and it's inherited by all the sites. The theme, the logo gets inherited by all the sites, and you get your news aggregation and site activities. Those are all the things that are getting rolled up to that hub. Huge. And then this is showing you how to go in. Like once this is live, after a hub site gets created, this is showing you how you would go in and define from a child site which hub site it goes with. So that's the actual instructions for doing that. All right, so then this says first half of calendar year 2018. So that's, yeah, that's what it says right here, first half of calendar year 2018. So that's a few months away, but I'm really looking forward to that one. All right, so let's move on to the next concept that I talked about. Connecting the modern workplace with SharePoint and OneDrive. So they have really been pushing this concept of a modern workplace. So they're kind of moving away from the word collaboration. I don't know if collaboration just got, that word got old or they just got tired of it, but I'm not sure. I think that what the message is, from what I understand, is that a modern workplace consists of informal teams. You have people that you work with on a project. You have people that you have a common manager that, you know, physically are in the same building with. And so you have all these different sort of groups of people that you work with maybe in different ways. So instead of thinking of all these sort of formal types of communication and formal ways that people collaborate, like just really embrace it as, and this is what people have been doing for years in SharePoint, just a lot of ad hoc collaboration. And so Microsoft is embracing that concept of people collaborating just informally with each other and just giving you easy out of the box ways of doing that. So a lot of that is going to be around, we'll talk about Teams too. A lot of that is going to be with Teams, what they've talked about, like the announcements about a ton of sessions talked about Teams. They talked about Teams in the keynote. So Teams, Microsoft Teams was a really big deal. If you all remember, I did a SharePoint Power Hour a few months ago where I actually gave you all accounts in my test tenant, and we went in and played around in Teams like live during Power Hour. That was a lot of fun. But so this is the first concept they're talking about. They're going to be making the sharing experience even more simple, because do you guys tell me if you agree? Historically, throughout the years of SharePoint, permissions have been the hardest thing for people to understand and to teach people. Like, it's just been the most complicated, confusing thing just in general for people managing sites. Permissions have always just been like so hard. Have y'all found that to be the case when you are delegating out, giving sites to people, that permissions things are the hardest things for people to really understand and do? If you're not doing it every day, you pretty much forget how to do it and have to relearn it every time you need to do permissions. Stacy says, you said when you create a team site, it gets a new site collection. When I go into SharePoint Admin Center, you don't see separate site collection. Right, you don't see them, Stacy. That is correct. So you don't have separate site collections to manage from SharePoint admin anymore, but they did announce that there's going to be a new SharePoint Admin Center, but that is not in place yet. So that is correct. When you go to just the waffle menu in Office 365 and go to SharePoint, which is like the SharePoint home, and you create a new site from there, you click new, that is a site collection, but is not showing in the list of site collections. That's correct. Let's see, what did I... Oh, thanks, Ariel, for checking out the YouTube chat. Yeah, I don't really formally use the YouTube chat because I'm trying to keep everybody just using Slack. But yeah, some people can't get into Slack. So Kevin says, is a hub an aggregated viewer? I'm not sure what you mean by that. It rolls up content from all its child sites, and yeah, so aggregates news and information from those sites. So I guess you could call it that. I don't know if you mean something specific when you say aggregated viewer, though, but it sounds like that's a yes. All right. Yeah, okay, so permissions, they're improving permissions basically, and they're trying to provide a consistent way to share files, control who has access, clearly communicate and enforce security policies. They're also saying they want to be able to, basically improving the external sharing, external collaboration, because it's been kind of questionable in the past. So they really want people to feel like what they're doing in SharePoint Online is secure. So they're adding a ton of this not only being able to share things, being able to see viewed shared files in OneDrive. So giving more visibility into what is shared with who, and also it's going to go into there's more reporting as well that they announce that's going to be from the top level. So just a ton more visibility, and then simplifying that sharing concept. So that those seem like those would be two opposite things. Like if you're simplifying sharing and making it easy for everybody to share, how are you making it more secure? But that's what they're doing, and they're making it more secure and more visibility. Brad says he's seen all the hidden team site collaborations in one of the site usage reports in the admin center. Yes, they are. They are in the reporting. They are just not in the old school SharePoint admin center, which it sounds like is going to go away pretty soon. From what I said, from what they said about there's going to be a new SharePoint admin center. So we'll kind of see where that goes. And you can get to those with PowerShell and everything too. So they're just not listed as site collections in SharePoint admin. All right, so let's see, blah, 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 co-authoring, new ways of looking at files. Okay, deeper integration with Teams. So look at this. Okay, so you've seen Teams. Teams has been around for almost a year now. Teams is getting more things added to it. So look at this. What we see here, this is the news announcements, and this is like the home page of your SharePoint site. This is a news page, and it is showing in Teams. So it looks like they just did the little plus button and they put pages, and they added that to be able to show inside of Teams, so you can feel like you're able to get all of your work done just being in Teams all day long, and not have to make a separate trip to go out to SharePoint, maybe to go, see what's on the home page that day or anything like that. You're in the Teams app, you're in the SharePoint app, you're in the Groups app, and all these apps are also going to have your announcements as well. So they're really kind of bringing this together so that no matter where you are, no matter which product you're using, you'll be able to get your news and announcements and be able to quickly and easily collaborate with everybody. Okay, so this is just, again, they haven't drastically changed Teams to make it so that it's confusing and you don't recognize it anymore, but they've added a lot of new things you can do in here, like forms. Remember we talked about Microsoft Forms a couple of power hours ago, and what it is and what it isn't. So you're going to be able to add forms in Teams for people to be able to fill out from in here. Yeah. Let's see. A couple of questions. Jeffrey says, do you think they're going to combine Content Hub with this new hub? Content, like the content type hub? No, it's two different things, if that's what you're talking about. Valerie says, can't even get people to use Teams. Well, Valerie, here's some good news for you. They're going to take away, so Teams is built on, like, underneath what's running behind Teams is Skype for Business. So Skype for Business chat, engine, that is what is the chat engine behind Teams. They're going to take away Skype for Business, Valerie. Skype for Business is going to be taken away. It's not going to be a thing anymore on its own, and you will have to use Teams to chat. So that is going to be a great way, Valerie, for you to drive your team to start using Teams instead of Skype for Business for chatting, assuming that they chat with each other with Skype for Business. But that's going to be the way that they're going to be collaborating. So the cool thing about Teams, and I've kind of already said this, when I did a whole power hour on Teams, is that you'll be able to have this running all day and having these conversations. And now you can have chat in here without it being in a team, but the idea is to drive people to keep their conversations as being contextual. So if you're talking about the ship room over here, or like the marketing project or something like that, you go into that channel, and that's where you have your thread, your conversation about it. That's where you have your back and forth, and that way, and it's recorded in there. And think about if somebody new joins your team, they'll be able to go into that channel and see what's going on and see conversations that have already happened. So that's really going to be a great new place that everyone is just going to be all day long to do all their chatting and conversations, sharing files with each other, which are inherently stored in SharePoint, because behind every Teams team is a SharePoint site too. Okay, so let me explain. I know I've explained this a couple of times, but just real quick recap. From now on, a SharePoint team site is also an Office 365 group, can also have a team, Microsoft Teams, on it. So those are all the same thing. So for each sort of group of people you collaborate with, that whole team is going to have all those. Does that make sense? All right. So let's see, a couple more questions. Any update on people without Microsoft accounts? No, I'm not sure about that one. I'm reading the questions. They said the execs didn't get it. Yeah. Yammer, they're touting Yammer as a little bit of a different use case for that. So Teams is going to be a more intimate group of people that you're actively working with, like on a project, or, like I said, you're physically in the same room or building with them, or you're working together and collaborating on something. But Yammer is, what they're saying is you use that for more like company-wide announcements, large division-wide announcements, like bigger, like sort of communications like that you need to be able to push out and still have people to be able to reply to them and have this threaded conversation. But it's not the same as just chatting with your team members about where you are on a particular project. So that's kind of what the two different things are. Eric says, I think Microsoft would suggest Yammer Teams instead of Slack. Yammer Teams, no, you're going to confuse everybody. Yammer Teams is not a thing. No, it doesn't sound like Yammer's on its way out at all. They've actually built in a lot of new, there's a new modern Yammer web part. They're really embracing Yammer, but they're really basically saying that this message is just a different use case for Yammer. Teams, let's see, somebody answered, meeting scheduled in Outlook will be conducted in Teams. So have you noticed if you have Teams in Outlook and you go to your calendar, if you have Teams installed on your computer and you go to your Outlook calendar in your Outlook client, and the buttons across the top where it says like create a new meeting, create a new Skype for Business meeting, there is a create a Teams meeting button there. So you can actually create a Teams meeting from the button. And I noticed in Flow the other day that this concept of an Office 365 group is also a connector, and you can have the calendar for that group / team also has actions where you can make a workflow, like a flow, create an event there. So they're tying everything together. No, it's really going to be good. All right. Let's see. Someone says they turned off chat history due to legal issues, so that may be a problem. Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about that. That sounds like a very specific case. But knowing that Skype for Business is behind the scenes in Teams, so any settings that you apply and that you had applied in Skype for Business will, carry over to Teams as well. But sometimes you might want to keep conversations and threads and comments about files and things like that are going on in Teams. All right, let's see. Let's see what else. Oh, SharePoint migration tool. That sounds nice. This is the first I'm seeing that. Did anyone watching the sessions that saw anything like that I might just kind of skim over that is really cool and we need to talk about? Just shout it out in the chat window, okay? They're going to have, look, there it is. I just mentioned it, the Yammer web part. So there's the Yammer web part, and it is, let's see, example, news articles, blah, 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 blah. All right. Customized theme, site designs, and page designs. So they're improving. So branding is no longer master pages, just in case y'all didn't get that memo yet with all the new modern stuff. Master pages are out, and the modern look is in. And they're going to have, they have themes now that they announced. It's just a handful of a small set of color themes to pick from, but that is a modern thing now. So yeah, y'all can just take those master pages and throw them out the window. Those things lately they just cause more heartache than anything, right? Oh, you said you tried the SharePoint migration tool, that new one? That's cool. What did you think, Richard? Let me scroll down here. There's just so much information in this one blog post. Good grief. Thanks, Jeff Teeper. Custom forms with Power Apps. So that is actually, that's also in a different one of the links that I put in here too. But let me tell you really quick about this sort of new type of Power App. So what we're seeing right here is, let me kind of explain what it is. This is a new type of Power App. So you know how historically in a SharePoint list you could click customize an info path and you could quickly just edit the form, click publish, and then you had a customized form. It was like super simple to just quickly go like change the colors or rearrange fields. So they've applied that concept to Power Apps. Can I get a golf clap or something like that, you all? So what we're doing is, tell me what you think, first of all, is when you are in a SharePoint list, there's just going to be, look at this, see this little easy customize button? I looked in my tenant, this isn't there yet, I think it's a couple of weeks out, but you customize and you're just quickly customizing the form for whatever that list is, and it pulls up Power Apps. You quickly customize, you know, rearrange fields, change the colors, whatever you want to do, and you publish it. And then, so look at this. This screen is a SharePoint list. See the SharePoint list behind it? And someone clicked to open an item. So this is just opening a SharePoint item in a SharePoint list, and this is the form that pulls up. This is the customized Power App. And so that is what it's going to look like to fill out a new form and edit a form, and that's how pretty it can be when you customized it in Power. That is amazing. That's exciting. So I can't wait for that to come out and start creating my training classes on that, etc. Let's see, questions. Padmanabha says, can you archive teams once a project is completed? They actually announced something like that too. I'll have to see if it's in any of these links as I'm going through them. But it's this concept of like having like a timeline and saying this site expires on this certain date. Now we've kind of had that concept with the concept of site policies, but this is going to be, I think this is going to be managed in a much better way and much smoother just way it works, because site policies never really got adopted from what I could tell. But yeah, so you're going to have the ability to have like a deadline or like a timeline that you put on these sites when you create them. I just don't know what that feature's called or where exactly it is, but I did hear something about that. There's just so much, like I said, there's just so much that they announced. It's just insane. All right, so that's the Power Apps on a SharePoint list thing. This isn't really new, send a document or item for review. So that's going to have to do with Microsoft Flow and collective knowledge, blah, 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 blah. MultiGeo, so they improved the MultiGeo concept. I actually interviewed Ann Michaels in one of my interviews that's in my blog post with all those videos that I put on there. And she talked more about the MultiGeo concept, but basically this applies to customers who have their tenant, you know, their company is spread out globally, and they need to be able to accommodate for that, and the location physically of where they are in the cloud and things like that. So I'm not going to get, that's much more technical than I usually get in Power Hour. But sorry, I'm just scrolling. That's more about the MultiGeo thing. Look at this. This is that new SharePoint Admin Center. Yay! And you know, my background is an admin, so this is very exciting to me. I cannot wait till this is out. They actually put out a link somewhere that you could fill out a form to actually request this to be in your tenant, sort of like for the first set of people, tenants to have it. I don't know if that's in this blog post though. I think it was in the official SharePoint blog that mentioned the new SharePoint Admin Center. All right, so that is super cool, and that is just so exciting. There are going to be so many things that we'll be able to see and manage, not flying blind like we've been in the past with what our site collections are, and a lot more that we'll be able to control from a central place. I love that. Like, this is one of my absolute favorite things, is the idea of having this updated SharePoint Admin Center. And then it just goes on and on and on. I mean, customize the function and experience the site list. Okay, so this is just a lot more links. So where is this link, Richard? They're all in my blog post. So this blog post, the one that I posted in here in Slack, it's called MS Ignite Wrap-Up. That is this one here, Connecting the Modern Workplace. That's where all that stuff is that I was just looking at. Okay, content management for the cloud. That is this one. He listed just so many things in here. Chris McNulty listed just so many things, and it's like a brain dump. It's like he just sat down and just decided to just write down just all the cool things that got updated. So one of the things that hopefully we'll see scrolling through here is the most popular, something that I tweeted out when I was in this session the other day. I actually went to 1 or 2 sessions at the conference. One of the things that I tweeted out was about conditional formatting now in a SharePoint list in the modern look. What do you guys think about that? Because that is the absolute most retweeted thing that I had tweeted out during the whole week of the conference. It got like 14,000 views or something crazy like that. Yeah, Richard, I think it's over in the official SharePoint blog somewhere when they announced the SharePoint Admin Center in there. I just don't know off the top of my head. We'll see if we get to it. But conditional formatting in SharePoint lists. So it was basically they were going just in the browser and clicking on a column and saying what the condition needed to be to show a certain if the task is overdue, show it red, that kind of thing. So that, apparently you guys love that, or whoever my followers are love that, because that was just an insane amount of retweets. I mean, that's super exciting. Okay, so look at this, attention views. This is, okay, so this has to do with metadata, and metadata not being filled out when people upload files. So a little background on this. Back in the old days, you had to, basically, if you had a single file, and you had a library that had some required fields, when you upload the file, it would prompt you to fill in the required fields when you upload the file and then check it in. But if you dumped in a bunch of files, like in a mass amount of files, more than one, then you didn't get prompted to fill in the metadata, and the files just stayed checked out to you. So that ended up being a problem because people didn't understand why the files were checked out to them, why other people couldn't see it. It's just always just been a really confusing thing. So what Microsoft did is they took that away. So then they took that away so that even if there was required metadata and you uploaded files, it didn't matter. And it didn't check them out to you, it just put them in the library anyway. So that didn't really solve the problem. So now this is where the way they're addressing it. Attention views aggregate files that require custom metadata into actionable screens that enable bulk management and updates. Huge. Okay, oh thanks, yeah, so Geek Out with the product team on SharePoint lists and libraries. That is the session you all need to go watch on the Microsoft Ignite YouTube channel, and that is the one that's going to have the, at least one of the ones that's going to have those, the conditional formatting on lists. Yeah, I need to go watch that one. I think I was doing, one of my video segments or something when that one was going on. Okay, look at this. Next one is huge too. What is this, right? People have been screaming about this. The information management, the information panel in, Word. Remember back in the old days, you used to be able to customize this with InfoPath, and that's basically when you're in a Word document and you can see the metadata at the top, right? Does that ring a bell? They're bringing it back. So it went away whenever Office 2016 came out. The information management, the information panel went away. Document information panel, sorry, keep saying the wrong thing. It went away, and now they're bringing it back, and it's going to appear in Word 2616 in January. People love this. People were screaming when it got yanked away, so it is back. Are you guys excited about that too? Okay, let's see. It says I've got 2 unread messages in here or something. I think, no, I think I got it. All right. Yeah, that is a cool title. I agree. They announced this thing called predictive indexing. So you know how in the past when we're dealing with large lists and libraries, we had to like go out of the way to go index certain fields and know to do that ahead of time before it got large and all this pain in the butt stuff we had to do. It's not only gonna have this predictive indexing where it will index columns automatically for you when it sees which columns should probably be indexed, but it's gonna have like a continual scroll. I don't know if that's mentioned in here, but when you're looking at lists and libraries, you're not gonna have the paging. You're just gonna keep going and going and going, and you're going to be just scrolling through everything like one big thing and not next, next, next. Like that has been a pain, right, over the years. So many of these things that over the years of SharePoint have just been so painful. Like they're addressing all this stuff that they're updating. So that's why I'm just so excited. No, InfoPath is not back. You got to be kidding me. Hopefully you're kidding, Richard. No, die, InfoPath. All right, so this is more having to do with Flow, being able to have check-in and approval integrated. So right now, or at least up until last week, Flow didn't have any knowledge of that content approval setting that exists in SharePoint lists and libraries that didn't appear in Flow. It didn't work. You couldn't set it in Flow, but they're bringing that back in. So that is what that is about. That's huge. Yeah. Sync files from document libraries protected with information rights management policies. That's one of those little nuanced minor things, but that could be a big deal for some people. You guys are hilarious. SharePoint Designer is going away, FYI. If you might have noticed that they didn't build a SharePoint Designer 2016, it's just 2013. That's kind of a hint when it comes to technology when they don't build a new version of it. So here is, look at that. That is the new document information panel. Look at that. Okay, so I'm in Word, and that is my metadata. Huge, right? I mean, it used to be across the top, but now it's down the side, but it gives you the ability to have more. It's going to make more sense because then that way it will go down the page and not be all kind of like in this weird clump up at the top. So there's your properties. Yeah, InfoPath's still around until 2026, officially supported till then. But it's just such a, like with modern browsers and modern pretty much anything, it's really getting to be more and more difficult to deal with. So this is that concept of attention views that we just talked about. So as you can see in here, it's alerting me that there are some things that are missing their metadata. So I can go to this attention view and it's brought to my attention, and then I can go fill in my metadata quickly just over in the little information panel. I like the way the information panel, when you're in a list or library, looks, it's got that same sort of look to it almost as it does in this new Word metadata panel that they announced. So here's the, this is going to be some of the Flow stuff that they built in. Again, this is going to replace your old 2010 out-of-the-box workflows, old 2007 out-of-the-box workflows. This is their new solution for that, to use Microsoft Flow, to use to do that, to send things for review and approval. All right, that's the end of that one. And so, Power Apps, I probably should have a whole separate Power Hour on that one, but that's going to be some of this new stuff that I was talking about with having the form right in front of the list. And so I kind of already talked about that. I wrote a whole blog post about this new rule builder that's in Power Apps. I'll probably just have to do a whole different Power Hour about that as well. And I'm not sure, Eric, when exactly attention views are coming. I must have skimmed over that. So and all these Power Power App announcements are actually already in, these things are in Power Apps, except the thing where you have a SharePoint list and the Power App goes in front of it, that is not out yet. And you're going to start seeing that from within SharePoint. So it's not something you're going to see necessarily different, I don't think, in the interface of Power Apps, but you'll definitely, when you go to SharePoint and you go to fill out forms, you're going to have that new little customized button to be able to customize those. So blah, blah, blah. Richer administrative controls, huge. That's for Power Apps. They put in richer administrative controls and reports for pretty much everything, though. And here are some coming soon things with embedding. That's all with Power Apps. All right, and then we've got refine your message. Okay, so this is communication sites, and this is not something that's brand new. We actually did a whole power hour about communication sites, but this is really, they've added some improvements to it. So it's reiterating the concept of communication sites. Each communication site is a site collection. And, oh, let's see, yeah, Jonas said 276 file formats with the possibility to open up zip files online. That is pretty exciting too. And Ariel just posted, oh, he just posted the join admin preview. It's aka.ms/join admin preview to get that SharePoint admin center preview. Thank you so much for finding that link. Appreciate that. So this is, so there, the whole news web part, the modern web part has been a little clunky because there hasn't ever really been a way to go say which particular news needs to stay on there, and it always just kind of rolls off. But now you can apparently promote any particular news article, and you can email a news digest to people, share your news digest via email. People still want to email things, don't they? So we're trying to encourage people as much as possible to use all these new collaboration tools, using Teams, and but there are people that absolutely still need to have a copy of that. They want that in their inbox. So you can do that. They're embracing, like I said, Microsoft's embracing all these ways that people want to work and are going to work, and they're just incorporating it into what they're doing and with all these updates of the product. And all of this, a lot of this has to do with all the improvements with how you work in the modern pages. And now we have mobile notifications for news articles. So if are you using the SharePoint app, all of you should have installed the SharePoint app on your phone. And now these news announcements that get made on your SharePoint site will actually give you a mobile notification if you want to. Right? That's exciting. I personally hate notifications and I turn them all off as much as possible. But SharePoint site will notify you. Microsoft Teams will app will notify you. OneDrive groups will notify you. So if you really want to be notified, you can install all those and just know about absolutely everything. I did a whole other power hour about all the apps as well. Of course, the maids are vacuuming now. That's awesome. New web parts. Look at that. They've even, there's so many web parts now. First of all, I'm definitely going to have to update my blog post about all the modern web parts. And second of all, there are so many now that, look, they've had to create a new interface for being able to just find which web part you're looking for, right? Because there's so many. So now you have a little search box there. You have a way that you can sort them right here on the screen when you're inserting a web part. But they are really trying to improve that experience because of just the clunkiness of having to just scroll through and visually find what web part you want. Is that audio? Can you all hear that vacuum cleaner? Just let me know. I can go tell them to stop or something. That's a lot of web parts. When are the modern web parts going live? They've been live for months. They're already live. Valerie. I've written several blog posts about them. I wrote one about, I think it's actually, yeah, right here, a popular post. I'll just copy that real quick and put it over here. And I wrote another post, and I think there's a link in there on how to get to turn that on if you don't know how to, if you don't see any of the modern stuff on your SharePoint online site, then how to go turn that on. Oh, the new one, she said. Yeah, I'm not sure about the new interface. I think, did you all see a date anywhere in there? I'm kind of like, wait a minute, how could you not have seen the modern web parts? Well, so what I was going to say is, if you're on premises, you can, if you're on SharePoint 2016 on premises, you can actually get a lot of this now as well. Did you know that? There are feature packs. So feature pack 2 that just came out for SharePoint on premises does have this modern look and modern web parts. So I don't have an on-premises environment. I don't even have VMs anymore. It's been a long time. But if any of you do have on-premises and have installed feature pack 2, I'd love to hear, you know, kind of what that experience is like. All right, so that's what they look like, and there's going to be a planner. So this is a list of all the new web parts and a list of all the ones they updated. And I didn't see a date though on the web parts. All right. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Got like 15 minutes left. They finally stopped. Sorry, the maids usually come much earlier in the day, and they decided to come right when I started Power Hour. We already talked about communication site. New features of Microsoft Forms. Now, when I did my Power Hour about Forms a few weeks ago, that is the most viewed Power Hour that I've ever had. I mean, right now we have 75 people viewing live, but that one at the time was like 55, and it was a lot. It was the most viewed one, and it was very disappointing, I think, for a lot of people, because that was one of the main messages that I started to convey at the very beginning, is that Forms is just Microsoft Forms, the little, like when you go to the waffle menu and you click the big F for Forms, that is a one-way form. That is, you can have anonymous, you know, people coming anonymously just to a web page, filling it out. It goes one way. It's never a form that someone is going to open later and edit. So it's only for like surveys or feedback, or just like one-way information you need to get from people. That's what Forms is, and again, there's a whole other Power Hour about that, but they did announce Teams and Forms integration. So Forms now in Teams are going to be one of the little tabs that you can add to your team itself. So you know, when you're in Teams, you have all the little tabs across the top, so that's where you'll be able to have that. So if you have a nice simple form that you just need to get information from people just going one way, you can do that. Also in my Power Hour, you're right, Stacy, they shouldn't have named it Forms. So it's totally not the same thing as Power Apps at all. It's a completely different product. You can, and I did this in Power Hour, you can have people fill out a form, create a Microsoft flow that captures what they filled out in the form and put it in a SharePoint list. Okay, so you can store that information in SharePoint from what they fill out in the form. Once it's in SharePoint, then you're editing it like in a SharePoint list form. All right. Maybe eventually you can receive attachments through Forms, says Ariel. Oh, yeah, that sounds kind of complicated. I'm not sure how they would do that. Here is the Microsoft Forms SharePoint web part. So I mentioned this a minute ago, so that's going to be a web part that you can use. Again, if you hadn't heard about Forms until now and thought that it was an info path replacement, it's not. It is going to disappoint you, but it is really good and easy for surveys. And think about SharePoint surveys. The SharePoint survey just list template, that's been around for like 10 years. And that's always just been a really easy, quick way of just gathering information from people and even showing it in pretty little charts from what they submitted. So this is like a much improved SharePoint survey list, really. It's much, you know, it's modern, you can do quiz scoring, you can do a lot more, but that's really more like the product that it's coming from, it, not InfoPath and not just like a SharePoint list form. Okay, share results with a link. So yeah, this is the results of what people filled out in your form, basically. And a lot of that I already did in Power Hour. Okay, so that is about Forms. And then we've got this. Okay, so I just wanted you to have, I kind of just stuck this Office 365 roadmap in here because I want to make sure that everybody knows that it exists. If you have never heard of it, it's roadmap.office.com. That's how you get to it, and then this is kind of where it takes you. But you can actually filter it down to certain products, and you can get a full list of what everything is and when it's coming out Yes, Jonas, Power Apps can replace InfoPath. Yeah, so this is where you can always go. So like a lot of this stuff that we've been looking at, that's where you'll be able to see. Just go here anytime and see that. Teams. Okay, I kind of saved Teams for almost last because, like I mentioned in my blog post, Teams is the future of business meetings. It is the big deal. It was in, I felt like they talked about Teams in every single SharePoint session. All the sessions that I was interested in, at least. Teams are really trying to drive it home. So this is going to be that you all definitely need to go try that out. If you haven't, you go to teams.microsoft.com. You can download the desktop app, download the app on your phone. Calling features and meeting enhancements, rolling out guest access, sort of, and blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Basically, this is really more of like a marketing type of blog post because it doesn't have like a lot of technical information. It's really just introducing Teams. But you guys should go to Success with Teams. I think that's what it was. Yeah, Success with Teams takes you to this. And I'll put that in the chat window too. This is awesome. I'm going to be in IW Mentor in my training site. I'm going to be creating some Teams training as well, but there's all the free just Microsoft training. And all the breakout sessions, not the little 20-minute, like my session that I did was just one of the little 20-minute theater sessions, but all of the breakout sessions are here. And look, in this link that I put in my blog post, I already filtered them for you to all the stuff that I'm interested in. So Stacy, it is a yearly event. So I filtered it down so that you can actually go just watch all of these anytime now. So that's pretty exciting. Also, let's see what else, all the videos. I have relaunched IW Mentor. So me and Joelle and the team have been working really hard for months, like almost a year, building all this content and putting together all these training classes. So I wanted to show you guys that too real quick. If you go to, now IW Mentor is not new, but it is new because it is a whole new site. It's a new platform that we're on now. So I highly, you can go create an account for free in here, just using your LinkedIn credentials. I've got free starter training, like just business user, how to put files in a library, collaborate with files in a library, basic stuff like that on the starter subscription. And then I have a couple of other levels of subscriptions. It's a yearly subscription for now. But if you guys go in here and try it out, I would really appreciate it if you, my awesome, sweet Power Hour fans, would. It doesn't have any reviews in it yet because it's brand new, and it doesn't, like, you can't import reviews. I can't have all my past reviews and pull them in here. So if you could fill in the reviews for these, that would be amazing. You can buy them as subscriptions, and you can also self-promotion. You can buy them as still the classes that we've always had them as. See, there are all these individual ones that you can buy. So what I did was every module of our classes that we've always taught, I broke them into separate courses so that you could buy, pick and choose. It's kind of like choose your own adventure. You can pick and choose different courses that you want instead of having to take like the whole power user course of 16 hours or whatever it is. So no, I'm not going to SB TechCon, sorry. Let's see, anyone else? Oh yeah, the script. So there's Jonas posted the script. That's also in my blog post as well. So here's the script that someone wrote to be able to download all the sessions, and that link is here as well. I'll go ahead and flip back to the main screen. So thank you so much. I think what I want to do is another Power Apps Power Hour. So I don't have the title written yet in my blog. I have my Power Hour schedule is under resources in the navigation of my blog, so I'll put the title there once I decide on it. But you guys go to the Ideas channel. Let me type that in here. Go to Ideas. Once you click on the little pound ideas, then it'll show up in your list of channels. But that is where I get your ideas, and I do those for Power. Those are ideas for Power Hour. So what I've done is you can pin. I pinned some items to it, to the right panel. I don't think pinning items carries across for everybody. Like the items that I pinned, I don't think they show in yours, but there are several items that I pinned, and if you would go in there and you know how in Slack you can sort of click on things like with a thumbs up to like vote on them in a way, you could do that if you see ideas in there that you like, and you can type your own new ideas, and that way I can see which ones like a lot of people are interested in, and I can go do those. So yeah, appreciate it. Thanks everybody for coming. Guess that just about wraps it up, and I will see you next week. Joelle is still going to be out. She's going to be on her honeymoon. But I'll see you all next week, and thanks so much for joining in for a live Power Hour and for the very, very lively conversation. You all have a good rest of the week.